Alrighty, so in the last video, we saw an instance where the limit did not exist. There was a DNE, and that's one of the first ways that a limit was not going to exist. A limit will not exist if the left side limit and the right side limit don't meet. And so if you look at our example, this is the example that we were working with. We know that the limit of g of x as x approaches 1, we know this limit does not exist. Because if I come from the left side, I'm headed towards 1. If I come from the right side, I'm headed towards 4. It's not the same destination. Therefore, the limit of g of x as x approaches 1 doesn't exist. However, it does bring up the idea that we can define one-sided limits and say, well, the limit does exist from the left side and the limit does exist from the right side. It's just that they don't agree, and so therefore the full limit doesn't exist. And so from the left, we're going to use this notation, and I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to circle it here. Whenever we put a negative symbol kind of as an exponent, it's not an exponent, but whenever we put that negative symbol above the x value that we're approaching, we mean we're coming from the left. Now remember, we're not saying on the left side, we're saying we're coming from the left to the right. So in this case, when I look at my graph, as x approaches 1 from the left, we're talking about this side. And we said that is approaching a y value, it's approaching 1. And similarly, whenever we see, let me use blue here, whenever we see a little plus sign in the exponent position, it's not really an exponent, but whenever you see a plus sign in the x value that we're approaching, then we're moving from the right. Now, again, we're moving from the right to left. So when you look at this picture, again, one is the x value that we're trying to get to. But the one in red is telling us we're coming from the left side, and the one in blue is telling us we're coming from the right side. That's not in blue, sir. Coming from the right side. And so if we come from the right side, hey, my limit is 4. So be very, very careful. We're going to start to practice with one-sided limits where I'm going to ask you, what is the left-sided limit, the limit of g of x as x approaches 1 from the left, it equals 1. And then the other statement, what is the limit of g of x as x approaches 1 from the right? Well, that equals 4. And because the left and the right do not agree, well, therefore, the limit does not exist. And so one of the ways we're going to check limits numerically and analytically with equations is with this idea. Does the limit from the left exist? Does the limit from the right exist? Are they the same limit? If they are, then the limit exists. If they're not, then the limit doesn't exist. But the idea is the y values are not, they're not approaching the same y values from both sides of a specific x value.